Folks, my first guests tonight are both veteran political reporters who host The Circus on Showtime. Please welcome John Heilemann and Alex Wagner. Good to see you again.
It is good to be here, sir.
Good to see you, John. Let's get right to the heat of the meat. There's some news. There's some news. Yeah, we got to. There's some news that it's possible that a lot of members of the audience don't know about because this happened just moments before we came out here to record the show. Tell the people what's happened with Paul Manafort.
Paul Manafort has made a plea deal with Robert Mueller.
And that might be.
I like it. You guys like this? For me?
Yeah.
For me?
That might be the biggest ovation Paul Manafort ever gets, right there. So he's flipping like a cheese omelet.
We don't. He may be pleading guilty. He may be copping a bigger deal. We're not sure of the specifics, but it looks like the trial that is supposed to start now is not going to start. And that
wait. Hold on. He's pleading guilty or he's making a deal? We don't know.
We don't know.
He's making a plea deal, so he's going to cop a plea to something, and the trial's now not going to happen because he's going to agree to some set of charges.
But why would he do that unless he's getting something? Because he could always fight.
Well, that is the question.
The cost of the trial is onerous.
Right.
And he is not doing that well these days. Mm-hmm. And so there's some speculation that he doesn't want to have to go to trial, so he's pleading guilty.
Okay.
That's the cooperation. Or he's flipped.
Okay.
Now, there's also the possibility that in exchange for like limited prison time, he agrees to never wear those ostrich jackets again in America. So, which would be a big plus for American society. Mm-hmm. But you think about, if you're Donald Trump, right, and you've seen your campaign chairman get convicted on 8 counts, you've seen your former fixer agree to cooperate, you've seen your accountant agree to cooperate, the guy who keeps your secrets, David Pecker, your sexual secrets, your other secrets. I know you know something. You know something about that, Stephen.
Sure I do.
David Pecker. Mm-hmm.
Whose Pecker doesn't keep their sexual secrets? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm just saying.
Mum's the word.
Yeah.
She went right there to the heat of the meat.
She did.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bad stretch at the end of August. I would say the possibility that Paul Manafort is now cooperating with Bob Mueller is going to make Donald Trump a little bit testy.
Well, he's been testy. I just think it's been a bad month for him. It's been a
great month.
One thing after another, whether it's the books, whether it's revelations, whether it's the op-ed, whether it's the guilty pleas or the guilty verdicts. With this hurricane approaching the East Coast right now, by the time we're on the air, it may have made landfall. I'm not entirely sure where Florence is right now. Natural disasters are, for a president, an opportunity to stand up and be the comforter, to be the leader, to be the person who knows what's going on and how we will fix the situation. That's actually, while terrible for the country, it can be a good opportunity for someone politically to establish themselves in the White House. How has he handled this week so far?
Instead of putting his hands on the captain's wheel, he has decided to pick a fight with the families of 3,000 dead Puerto Ricans, which is not what the moment calls for. It is a shocking political strategy. I think strategy is being euphemistic because I don't think there's actually any thinking behind this. But he has ensured that every time we talk about Donald Trump and natural disaster, we are also talking about a black mark on his administration, which, of course, is the federal government's response to Hurricane Maria.
He's the first Puerto Rican truther. It's like not a conspiracy theory. The notion that these people didn't die was not a conspiracy theory anyone was talking about. Donald Trump invented that conspiracy theory today. It's like the Sandy Hook truthers are going, dude, people died,
Well, here's the thing, is that he says he always punches back. But now he's trying to punch a hurricane back.
Well, he's actually punching himself back. I mean, right? Like, this is not helping Donald Trump.
Has anyone defended him?
Not on this set.
No.
Well,
anybody in Washington, are any of his, like, the people who always come to his side,
well,
anybody explain, like, no, he's absolutely right, or he's got a point?
Well, Donald Trump is furthering this narrative that it's about us versus them. Whether the us is an island of Latinos,
American citizens,
which
they keep calling an isolated island,
right?
An inaccessible, isolated island.
Right.
I think Delta flies there every 2 hours, every day. I think we knew it was an island beforehand. Yes. It's not like they said, oh, okay, the hurricane's coming, let's saw off the bridge. We knew there are ways to be prepared.
Of further dividing us from them, whoever the us is, whoever the them is, for casting aspersion on the data and the fact-finding infrastructure in this country, of saying that the liberal media is somehow biased for reporting these numbers. And in that way, if anyone's benefiting, I mean, it is stoking his base and the anger of his base, which I think Trump has calculated as something good for him in his presidency.
I imagine somebody coming into the Oval Office and saying, Florence is headed towards us and is going to do a huge amount of damage, and Trump calling his lawyer and saying, get her to sign an NDA.
Deny, deny, deny. Yes, done. You guys took the summer off, right? You haven't, the circus hasn't been on for the summer, right?
The summer.
Have you been shooting the whole time? Or is this literally like it's a new documentary every week? What we're seeing is what just happened.
It is a new documentary every week. We spent the summer biting our nails, wishing the cameras were rolling. They finally are.
We're less than 2 months away, I think, from the midterm elections. And it's still a long shot. The Senate's still a long shot for the Democrats, my understanding is.
Well, Mitch McConnell called it a knife fight in an alley, which I guess is better than a knife fight in a garbage can or a phone booth. But it's closer than he would be comfortable.
It's not a zero chance, but I think 538 gave it about a 1/3 chance for the Democrats to take the Senate. But the House looks, more likely. If the Democrats do take the House, what do you think happens next? What is the first thing the Democrats are going to do?
I think they're going to have to, first of all, they're going to have to grapple internally with the I word, impeachment, because there's going to be a lot of pressure to move forward on that.
But isn't it slightly crazy to talk about impeachment? Because impeachment, yes, you need a majority in the House, but you need 67, right? You need 2/3 plus 1 in the Senate. And you're never going to get that. There aren't 16 moderate Republicans left.
I think numerically and also politically, it might not be that wise to be talking about impeachment, but nonetheless, the conversation nationally is what it is, and Robert Mueller will at some point wrap up his investigation, and from there, how Democrats are going to have to figure out a path forward. But you talk to Democrats, as we have, you talk to Democratic strategists, and they say, our focus is health care, our focus is pocketbooks, that's what Americans are voting on, that's what they're upset about, and that's what you're going to see movement on legislatively if we take the House back.
I think they really shouldn't do anything about impeachment. I don't think impeaching Donald Trump would actually be very good for the nation. I think he could always say that he was robbed or that there was a cabal
no matter what
or something
happens.
like that, and that an election is the proper way to do it. Like, not sort of these sort of extraordinary constitutional measures, but just ordinary voting is the way to do it.
Well, except if I mean, this is part of the thing that's hard to imagine. We have a very hard time imagining a world where the election has happened and Democrats have taken back control of one or both houses, because that's a world where Republicans' calculus about what they do has changed. The price of sticking with Trump will have been made clear. And the second thing is we have a hard time imagining what the world looks like after Bob Mueller delivers whatever report he delivers. You are not going to say that if Bob Mueller comes forward with a 9/11 commission size report, like 3 phone books. We don't have phone books anymore, but 3 phone books full of crimes that he believes Donald Trump would be indicted for if he could be indicted in a court of law. You will very quickly find yourself, among other people, will say, yeah, maybe impeachment makes sense. Depends on what's in the report.
Right.
We don't know.
It does. Mueller's very tight-lipped. We don't know really what's going on. Would you hear rumors about, is this going to be like they're going to get him on campaign finance, or are we... Or is this going to be a larger finding? What's the rumors you guys hear?
In the interest of completely baseless speculation.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's my favorite. Well, look, my favorite type of speculation.
It appears that he has a case to be made for obstruction of justice, and it appears that he has a case to be made for collusion, but nobody can know, because the beauty of Robert Mueller is that he has managed to be a lockbox in the leakiest, craziest, talkiest moment in American politics.
Well, one guy who's still standing by the president, though the president doesn't want him standing around anymore, evidently, is Steve Bannon. And I understand you interviewed him last night for this week's show.
2.5 of the craziest hours of my life, Stephen.
Okay. So
I've had a pretty crazy life.
We have a clip here. Can you give us a little context before we go to the clip? What was he saying?
Steve Bannon had said the other day that the New York Times anonymous op-ed amounted to a coup. And so I wanted to discuss that matter with him.
Okay. Jim.
The op-ed represents a concern about the president's fitness for office a decision not to try to remove him, but instead to try to stay in office with him and keep him from doing some of the things they fear he would do in his worst moments. How is that a coup?
What they have said is that they are not going to implement the plans of the President of the United States. It's exactly like McClellan. Lincoln wanted to go to a hard war, and they didn't want to do it. They didn't think he was fit to do that, and they had this thing of what they were going to not follow their orders.
You're really comparing Trump to Lincoln now?
Absolutely.
Oh, dear
And
God.
he ought to do, by the way, he ought to do the exact thing Lincoln did, fire McClellan.
Do you think he says stuff like that because he wants back in the White House badly?
Oh, yeah, and I spent a fair amount of time thinking about it. Like, you know, Lincoln wrote the Emancipation Proclamation and gave the Gettysburg Address, and Donald Trump can't pronounce the word anonymous, you know. I'm not...
Well,
Thank you, Jean-Baptiste.
Yes, the circus returns this Sunday on Showtime. John Heilemann and Alex Wagner, everybody.